Megan Cusack, and welcome to another episode of Vehicle Care Rockstars. Moving is never easy, but it's even more difficult when you're uprooting yourself from your home country. It takes a special kind of courage and tenacity to run the immigration gauntlet and settle in a new place with a different culture, no friends and family, and only a dream to keep you going. Stefan Rossi, founder and owner of Ace Racing Engines in Torrance, California, upended his entire life to follow such a dream. Growing up in the UK, Steph was fascinated with American muscle cars, and after multiple moves across the world, he's finally settled here to make his dream of building race engines a reality, and that dream has roared down the track more powerfully than he could have imagined. What prompted your interest in engine building? You mentioned that you're passionate. What prompted that passion? How did you get started in this industry?
Ever since I was a kid, I always was into hot rods and American muscle cars and stuff. Watching movies back in England, it was always a dream to have one of those one day. And my dad was around. All his friends and my dad were into Volkswagens in England, so they were. You can afford those a lot more than you can afford American cars in England. So my dad had a bug and I got into that with him. He gave it to me and I built my first engine, and it just spiraled out of control from there really, and when my parents, my mum and my stepdad brought me over to Florida. We went to Disneyland, Disney World, whichever it's called there, and we went to Old Town Kissimmee, and they had like a cruise night on. There was muscle cars everywhere. I remember that was cool, and it was just always been the dream to I don't know, just know everything. I remember one day my dad opened the hood of this Volkswagen Polo that he was. I remember just looking in there, thinking it looks all complex and everything, and I'd love to know what every little thing is there, and obviously going fast is the next thing that you want to do as soon as you know everything about an engine, so it just kind of spiraled out of control, I guess.
All right, so you look in under the hood here, you see this engine, and what was your journey to learning more about that? Reading magazines, I would say, a lot. Didn't look on the internet or anything then much. It wasn't really a thing, I don't think. Read magazines, a lot of it. When I would go to the shop there, the newsagent's shop, or like to try and get the magazines that I'd like. It would be American car magazines or Volkswagen magazines and stuff, and go and just carrying on like that. And how did you get your hands-on experience?
Me and my dad tried to buy 2 Camaros in England. They were like Gen 3 Camaros, back, I think we're talking like 2002, 2001-ish maybe. They were really cheap, and we couldn't insure them in England. So he said, well, the next thing really would be the bug. It's a push rod engine, which obviously I know now, but back then saying that to me, I was like, oh, well, yeah, whatever. Like, and it was a smaller carburetor. It was the closest thing to a V8 really that you could get. So kind of in England, and the aftermarket for that is huge, and there's a big scene for it. So I did that, and I took the engine apart. The stock engine is a 1300cc, and it just went from there. Built that into a 1641cc with a cam, put some good carburetors on it and stuff, and it just spiraled out of control really. And then I was building the 2.2 litre for it and stuff, and never stopped progressing with that. And then eventually, when I could afford it, then I went off, did the military stuff for a bit, came back, worked at a couple of shops, and then thought, you know what, why don't you rent your own space and do your... I actually had an interview at a shop, and I cancelled the interview the morning I was meant to go. I was meant to drive 2 hours, and I said, you know what, I don't feel this. And I said, can I, sorry guys to let you down, and I didn't go, and then I rented a shop literally like the Monday, and that's when I opened Ace, and started doing a lot of Volkswagen stuff. And then when I could afford it, V8s. So kind of swapped the Volkswagen for the V8 stuff, and then kept. We still do Volkswagen stuff now, so still have a lot. It's probably about 25% of the business is Volkswagen still, and it just.
And so, what's the other 75% of your business now?
Drag race engines only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did a few street V8 engines, but now it's just predominantly drag race only.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Very cool. Now, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. You kind of skimmed over military service there. Tell me a bit about that. Like, what was that journey? What prompted you to go into the military, and what did you learn from that you're incorporating in your business now?
So I always wanted to go into the military. It was the hot rods, like muscle cars and stuff like that, had always intrigued me, and I've always been into like guns and military and stuff. And in England, you can't have guns; it's very strict. I always liked the idea of going in the military, so I guess that was the reason why. And I wanted to serve my country and stuff, and very proud to do that. And
absolutely,
I went in and then did Afghanistan in 2009. That was 7 months. That was a hard tour, and it was good. And at the start we did a lot of training on tanks, small tanks and stuff. We had CVRTs, they were called, a small tracked vehicle. So I got to use a bit of my mechanic that I'd learnt stuff there with my dad and stuff in there. But it teaches you like organisation and very meticulous in placement of things. So like you would have room inspections, and you'd have to have like different, your boot brush and your polish and your toothbrush and everything all laid out on like a green towel folded a specific way. Hospital corners on your bed, and your wardrobe would have to, like your locker would have to look a certain way. And I guess that's like transpired now into my shop. Like my shop is very neat and tidy, like everything has a place and keep up and stuff. And I think integrity as well, like the core value, the British Army has like core values probably the same as the US military, I'm sure. And those core values, I think they really get like ingrained into you, and I think they stay with you for the rest of your life. And I think that integrity and stuff, selfless commitment, and it becomes the kit and the job and the mission come first, and you're last. So like you would check on all your teammates, and then you would check food supply, weapon supply, and then you would clean you afterwards. You're the last thing that gets seen to, and that's I think how I carry my business out. I don't normally have breakfast, and we'll work till about 2 o'clock. I'll just have a sandwich and keep working. And if I'm doing something, the food waits. I have to, I don't have a set lunch or anything like that. And I think that all that is from the military.
That definitely sounds like it comes from the military too. But I have to imagine it's also part of that entrepreneurial mindset where your business is kind of your baby. You take care of it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
You take care of that first, and yourself second there. So, all right. So born in England, grew up there, went into the military. So what was next? How did you end up in the U.S.?
So left the military, was working at a Volkswagen dealership, funny enough, so nothing to do with performance or anything, and was trying to get into the engine side there, which they eventually let me be. I was did a lot of rebuilds on the VR6 engine. It was like a warranty thing, piston rings or something, I think it was. So did a lot of that, and then from there I went to Canada. I played hockey since I was about 11 years old, ice hockey since I was about 11 years old, and my mom sent me a hunt for job or fish for jobs link to a job in Canada, and she knew I'd always wanted to move to the US. She said, you can go play hockey, get paid $30 an hour to work on Kenworth trucks, which I'd never worked on a big truck like that before, and you can probably move from there to Canada. It was Saskatoon. It's about, I think, 5 or 6 hours north of the border, North Dakota. So she said, you could be a stepping stone, but it's just as hard to move to the US from Canada as it is to move from the UK. So I lasted there about 10 months. Missed all my friends and stuff because we were that age, early 20s, mid 20s, early 20s, trying to go out all the time and stuff. So I missed a lot of my friends, which is one of the reasons I ended up leaving the army after almost 5 years. And I came back after 10 months, and that's when I worked for Mercedes then, and that's when I had the interview for that shop I mentioned, and that's when I decided to just go on my own and start Ace. And
you got your shop started in England. Tell me a little bit more about that. How did you originally brand yourselves?
So we called the shop Air-Cooled Engineering because of all the engines we were doing were air-cooled Volkswagens, and that's where the name Ace comes from, because when we moved here I didn't want to totally rebrand and lose Google reviews, Facebook reviews. I didn't want to be Stefan Rossi Racing Engines or something like that. I just didn't want my name in it. I don't know, I don't like my own name, but people say you got a cool name, I'm like, I don't like it, but so that's why I didn't want it on valve covers, and I didn't think Rossi Racing Engines or RRE sounded good, so I said, why don't we just call it Ace? It was already Ace. It was Air-Cooled Engineering, and the logo was Ace with Air-Cooled Engineering underneath it. So to be able to still aim at the Volkswagen stuff, because a lot of the people over here in America knew we were really big in the Volkswagen scene, so it was easy to get Volkswagen work when we moved over here. A lot of them were like, wow, yeah, glad you moved here, please build me one of these. So we didn't want to change and just give all that up. We wanted to still keep that, so we thought, let's just call it Ace. Performance engines, we called it originally, and we're doing a lot of street LS and V8 stuff, and then I said, I don't want to, I always wanted to be just racing only. So we just very quickly, within probably a year, we changed it to Ace Racing Engines. So our business is actually LLC is Ace Performance Engines, but it's DBA, doing business as Ace Racing Engines.
Gotcha.
So.
And so then what was the impetus for finally saying, okay, I've got my own shop over here, but now I want to come to the US?
Yeah, so 7 years it was in England, and in about the 5th year started making trips over here, and the plan was always to try and move here somehow. And I spoke to a couple of friends that I'd made over here about maybe coming to work for their shop, but I couldn't get past being self-employed for 7 years and then going to then work for someone. I wanted to carry my brand over from England, and I think we kind of maxed out everything that we could do in England. We were very busy. We did lift work, so we would build the engines, and then a guy that worked with me would install them. We slowly stopped doing that because it would spiral out of control with wiring, rust repairs, everything else breaks. So it would put us behind schedule on engine builds. And then we were really busy, non-stop, but it just felt like to grow the business more to the next level, we would have to come here. And there was things in England I didn't like about living in England and stuff. So we came, we applied for, it was an E2 investment visa. So we basically had to come over here, set up the business, pay for everything, while we were on tourism visas for 3 months at a time. But it took us 6 months. So we had to go to the border, and then when we came back over from Canada, they put us into a room and said, no, what the heck, you can't come in here, like you've already passed 90 days. And we had to explain, we're doing an E2, we had a letter from our lawyer and stuff, and he was like, okay, you have to go in here, wait for like an hour, and then the supervisor came out, and then he was like, yeah, I know the E2 visa. And we're like, oh my God, because we had the dog there, we shipped a container over already, we had a shop, we had an apartment. we're like, our life is here, you know, if they say no, you can't. So yeah, that's the thing with that visa, you have to come up and set up everything and then go back to England, to the embassy, the US embassy in London, and show them what you've done and hope that they give you a visa. And they gave us a 5-year visa. And we're just about to renew it. We're doing our application again now.
Wow.
So,
yeah, kudos to you, because that is a very complicated process, it sounds like.
Laura does a lot of that, so yeah, she takes care of that.
Yeah.
So.
You mentioned like having that passion for your own brand, your own company. What is it that you think makes Ace Racing Engines a unique building company?
I think because all the V8s that we do a little bit of the Volkswagens. Jerome does all the Volkswagens currently, and every V8 that you see that we build or goes down the track, it's all, I machine them myself in-house with the machines. CNC machine, honing machine, line hone. I build them, they're not passed down to like an assembly line, like a guy does the short block. A guy does machining, a guy does the short block, a guy does the top end. We don't buy the cylinder heads with the valves and springs installed or anything. You know, we get our own valves, we set all the spring heights up, and we check the valve job, the guide clearance, everything. You know, well, I say I do all of that stuff. So every single engine is me, I think, and I think it's a bit, maybe it's like a hybrid of a company that builds a lot of engines. Not a lot, I say we probably do about 25 to 30 a year, but it's still, it's like me, Stefan Rossi, building the engine, machining it, dynoing it. It's not some guys that work for me that maybe don't know much.
Yeah, it's got your personal touch on every single
every
engine.
single one. And I have like a good relationship with the customers, and some of them, if they're on the ECU that we use, a lot of fuel tech, I'll look at logs with them if I can help anything. I'll try. I don't claim to be a master tuner or anything, but you know, I can help if anything needed. And we go to the track a lot, fly out to Florida, Georgia, and where a lot of our engines go. It's all pretty much southeast, even though we're in California. We only have like 2 customers, one Baja, like off-road, and one twin turbo street car. That's the only 2 V8 customers that we have in California. It's very personable, I think, and they're like cookie cutter to us builds, but they're like full custom, you know, everything. We have our set parts that we kind of use, brands that we use, but yeah, it's they're not shelf, they're not like crate engines or anything like that. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, what would you say is the biggest challenge you've faced in your business so far?
Getting out there in the industry, just like showing what our work can do.
How did you go about that?
Our own car was what we tried to do at Sick Week. We did finish the week. We had unfortunate crash on day 1, which we were talking about last night. You know, due to see, if I talk about that, it goes down a different path of going into why we have all the machines and stuff we have now, and that was the crash that happened with my car was the reason we brought all the machines. But getting that done was to try and show the world what we could do. It didn't go to plan because of the way the O-rings were machined in the head was done incorrectly. There was a gap at the end. Now I have my own machines. I can do that myself. We don't use O-rings. We use a fuel hoop, so it's a one-piece steel hoop, so there's no gap to let, you know, coolant, water or cylinder pressure out to pressurize the coolant system. And then the year after that, we've had in the year between then and the year after, we had some great customers down in Florida that bought engines from us, and they've done really well. They've won, like one of them has won 4 events, wow, I think, down there. And there's pictures of him with the checks and stuff, and that's still going now. He's still racing it now. There's another one down there that races the same series in no time with him that has also won quite a bit as well. And then the year after that, the Sick Week after that, the Drag and Drive event, we won the whole event with one of our 400 cubic inch LS-Next 2 engines in a truck, and the customer was from Sweden, and he beat everything. that was out there, and that was, big blocks and everything. And we build big blocks and Hemis and stuff as well, but it was really cool to be able to do that with such a small, cast 400 cubic inch LS engine. I think that really put us on the map.
Yeah.
And just the relationships that were formed with customers and how well the customers we've had out have done. And I think that's been a challenge to get known, not just to look like another kind of like wannabe trying to do it like this is what we offer, cheesy kind of, but actually don't know what we like. We've never had an engine failure. Everyone that gets engines from us normally, without sounding big-headed, a lot of them win and stuff. And I think people know that now, that we're very meticulous and the work I do and the machining I do, and I think they can appreciate that more than someone that's been in the US a lot longer. I mean, we've been in business 12 years now, but no one really knows about us, I think, still. I mean, I think we're just getting there now, so I think that's the challenge. Breaking into the US industry is the short answer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Now, so what is your favorite part of the job?
Building the engine after I machine it and I clean it in the ultrasonic. Just me being in the engine room with the AC on, with the doors shut, with the music on loud, just in the zone, like getting on with it. That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's that's a true creative at work. I mean, you buckle down and you focus. I can definitely relate to that for sure. So you mentioned like now you guys finally feel like you're starting to get your footing in the US market here. So what's next? What does the future of Ace Racing engines look like?
We want to get into a lot of the pro mod stuff, hopefully, eventually. We'd like to be building some of the Noonan Hemis now and AJP 481Xs, and I'd like to. A lot of what we've been doing for the last 18 months has been billet LS, so like Noonan-based LSs. I'd like to. Yeah, it's all evolved. It's like the Volkswagens that went from like mild Volkswagens to crazy modified to crazy turbo Volkswagens to like stock block LSs to LS Next SHP stuff, now to LS Next 2, and then recently, last almost 2 years now, just mainly billet LS, and now billet Hemi, AJP, the 481X and stuff. And I'd like to just keep progressing to really kind of just do the billet LS, LS Next 2, and Hemi and 481, and trying to get into like Pro 275, Radial versus the World, Pro Mod side of the racing. A lot of the stuff we do currently is like X275, a little bit of limited drag radial, and a lot about no time stuff as well.
And so how did you end up getting into the LS engines? How did that become a specialty?
I actually was really into small block Chevys and still am forever. I had a 415 cubic inch small block in my Nova. So the black Nova that I race, that I had in England as well. I've had that since 2015, I think. And that got us a lot of V8 work in England. There's not a lot of V8 work in England, but a lot for England. Like if I can kind of put it in perspective.
Yeah.
And I had a small block in that, and my friend Tim, he was like my best friend back in England. He had an Nova, he had it in my shop in England, and we were like building them both at the same time. And he was always, get an LS. And to me, I was like, no, the LS is like the Subaru of the Volkswagen world, where people will take the Volkswagen engine out, air-cooled Volkswagen, and put a Subaru engine in. And I said, no, that's like, I don't want to do it. And finally did one for a wagon I had, a 64 Chevelle wagon in England. And I thought, it was amazing. I liked how everything was O-ringed, and the roller cam, and the main cap design and everything. And it just really got into them then. And he was like, see, I told you. And it was like 2 years later, and I was like, he's like, look at you now. I'm like, yeah. So I do a little bit of small block stuff. Did one for one of the guys at Fuel Tech earlier this year. But other than that, yeah, not much. Just mainly, I mean, they're not really LS engines. They're a small block 400 bore space, small block. The only thing that resembles an LS on anything of the engines that we do is the front timing cover shape. It's all billet gear drive, billet crankshaft, Cleveland main, big block aluminum rods, stuff like that. They don't really just max effort small block, I guess.
You've mentioned a couple people that work with you at Ace, Laura and Jerome. Can you tell me a bit more about them and how big a part they play in the business?
Yeah, so me and Laura have been together since 2016. In life, like she's my girlfriend, and she worked at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, and I had the shop in England. And when the California thing started, we're talking about a lot. She was always the plan, obviously, for her to come and we go together and do the thing. And she actually banned me from talking about California for a year because she was just sick of hearing about it, and she still worked at the hospital. Yeah. So, and then I don't know, I think it was less than a year, she was like, okay, we can start, and things got real serious, and we started planning the move. And then she left her job and started coming to the shop a lot and stuff right before we left. Probably 6 months within that, we started getting serious about it, and we started making trips over here. And just looking around and looking at shop areas and areas to be in. And I remember one trip we came over, Laura cried when we left, and we were in Seal Beach, and I remember we were on the pier and she was crying about leaving. And so it was, we always loved coming over here and hated going back to the miserable weather in England.
Can confirm, it's pretty rainy and miserable over there.
It is grey and bleak, and cold. And, So then we just did it. Laura was a big part with the visa, big help. Like, she did a lot of the visa stuff, paperwork stuff. We did the business plan together, and we did everything together. But she was really, while I was still building engines and stuff, keeping it with, because we had a lot of customers in England. Laura did a lot of the visa stuff, so it's pretty much on her that we got all that done. So that was cool. And then we moved over here, and we're not married, and we will get married soon, but we're not married. So Laura, we were 50-50 on the business, enabled for us to both come. If we were married, I could have just done it, and Laura could have gone and done. She's like a technician, pharmacy. For a robotic company that was like a dispensary and stuff. So she was getting paid well in London doing that, and we lived in Birmingham, which is 2 hours north of London, and she could have done that over here if we got married, but we didn't want to get married just to move. Like, we wanted to get married for the right reason. We don't want to say, hey, we got married just to move to America. So we became partners in the business, and Laura works full-time in the business with me, and she really holds the fort down. She does all the admin stuff, ordering, dealing with a lot of customers now. I still, have very technical talks with customers, but Laura can, after that, I can transfer them back to Laura's office, and she really does do everything like that, which enables me to just stay focused on the engine building stuff. And I always tell her, like we talk about finances and stuff and bills and stuff, and I always say, like, you just keep your stresses to you, and I keep my stresses to me. Like, I don't come and say, like, this block is too big at the parting line, someone line honed it too big or whatever. Like, we had that past when we weren't doing our own machining. I don't put those stresses onto you, don't put your stresses onto me, kind of thing. Right. Even though we kind of both know it works well. She's in her own world, she has her own load of stuff to do, her phone's constantly ringing, and she does really well with that. And I definitely couldn't do it without her, that's for sure. Another,
I guess, business stressor, you're planning a big move here, aren't you?
Yeah, so we're, in England, America is America, it's great, but really, I don't know why, but in England, like, the culture is like California. It's like out west, the palm trees, the sun, the beach and everything. And when, obviously we've been there 5 years now, and we know None of the racing is there that left early 2000s. If we did our research, we could have skipped and gone straight to Florida, but we didn't really know that then at the time.
Yeah.
Didn't know how strict smog and stuff like that, and maybe gun rules and stuff. Because I'm into guns, obviously, so there's certain, I can have a black Glock, but I can't have a brown Glock. You know, it's like, why? It's just a different color. You know, stuff like that really bugs me, and the smog thing as well sucks because I have a 86 Ford wagon that has one of my engines in with a Garrett 106mm turbo, and I can't drive that on the street because it would get crushed if I get pulled over with that. So stuff like that. The first 2 years, we were like, you know, loved it. I kind of smitten with it. We're like, wow, this is so much better than England. Blah blah. It still is way better than England. And then after about 2 years, I wanted to move. And only about 6 months ago, between 6 and 8 months ago, is when Laura finally said, yeah, I'm ready to move too. And we want to go to Florida, not far from Bradenton track. There's a lot of our customers down there, South Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. So we'll be close to a lot of them. And I think we'll be right by the track within 30 minutes. Hopefully the shop will be from the track. And I saw that Drag Illustrated did an article recently, and they mentioned that California was the golden era of drag racing. It's thought of like where it came from, and I agree with that. But now it's died there completely, and they said in an article that they referenced it as a new golden era of drag racing is about to happen on the west coast of Florida, kind of thing, and in the southeast of America, and I believe that is happening already. The industry down there is huge. Lots of events like pro mod stuff that goes hand in hand. We're trying to get more into that. So if they have big pro mod races down there, World Series of Pro Mod, Snowbird Nationals, all that stuff. So I think hopefully within the next 6 to 8 months, maybe 8 to 12, maybe, we'll see, we'll be there. And we're going down there next month for 2 races that we sponsored. One at South Georgia, one in Bradenton. And we're gonna, in the week between the 2 races, we're gonna go look around. The dream is to hopefully buy some land and build a shop. And for the prices that we've seen and spoke to people about currently, it blows our mind compared to what we're paying.
Yeah.
And what it is in California. It's like nothing really. Not saying that money's nothing, it is, but it's insane what you can do down there for what it would cost where we are currently.
After just a few years on this side of the pond, Stefan's made quite a name for himself on the performance circuit. The passion that pushed him to literally cross an ocean is one he's eager to share with others, and sharing is exactly how he's trying to improve the performance industry. Join us next time on Vehicle Care Rockstars to learn more about Steph's views on engine building and how he's promoting transparency in his shop. All right, Steph, we're going to play a little game called B-Sides to get to know you better. I'm going to give you a series of choices and you tell us which ones you prefer. Ready?
Okay, yep.
All right, let's start with some general questions. Soccer, or as you might call it, football, or ice hockey?
Ice hockey.
All right. No Country for Old Men, or Dazed and Confused?
Oh man. No Country for Old Men, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a Chevy LS engine build or a VW engine build?
LS, definitely.
LS, okay. A classic Volkswagen Bug or Chevy Nova?
Nova.
Okay. Corvette or Camaro?
Camaro.
Favorite muscle car?
70 Chevelle slash Oldsmobile 442.
Okay. Go to the shooting range or race on the track?
I love range days because it's nothing to do with anything. It's an escape.
Yeah.
So range day, I would say,
Okay.
with how busy work is.
All right.
It's a nice escape.
So, along similar lines, build an engine or build a gun?
Man, same. I love both, but building the gun is completely... They're both therapeutic to me, but building the gun is in my garage at home, no phone ringing. Man. Talk about personal or like business or...
It's just your choice. Your choice.
I don't know, I'm building my small box Chevy for my Nova wagon at home at the moment, and I'm loving doing that at home, so... I'm going to say building the gun because it's just chill.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. Shotgun or rifle?
Rifle.
Pistol or revolver?
Pistol.
Okay. What's your current gun building project?
Doing a Mark 13 Mod 7, which is a newer version of a Mark 13 Mod 5 that I already did. It's a US Army sniper rifle.
Okay.
Basically. Yeah.
Very cool. Now this is Vehicle Care Rockstars, so let's move on to your musical tastes. Classic rock or punk rock?
Classic rock.
Okay. House music or rap?
House music.
All right. Guns N' Roses or Foo Fighters?
Guns N' Roses all time.
All right. Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg?
Dr. Dre, but only one album.
All right, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Incubus or Brand New?
Oh man. Brand new.
Okay. First concert you attended?
Foo Fighters, yeah.
All right. Last concert you attended?
Yellow Card.
Okay. Best concert you attended?
Incubus at the Hollywood Bowl last year.
Nice. That's a good one. Well, Steph, you're a rock star. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.